Good morning. You listen to Blue Collar Tribe Podcast. I am your host, Splash. I have an awesome episode, but before we get to my guest in the episode, let's kind of go over some things because, well, as with every podcast episode, there is tea to spill. This is season 10. I am recording this in May. I have no idea the date this is going to be going, and I just want to make this clear to my new listeners. Thank you for listening. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Follow me, Instagram, YouTube, the TikTok, the Real Splash. I also have a Facebook group called Blue Collar Tribers, because you guys are the tribe that keeps the world going as blue collar men and women in the world. And secondly, also, thank you for supporting me. I really appreciate all the support to be able to transition from being the painter, contractor to a content creator 100% of the time, and to my sponsors. You'll hear them throughout this podcast. I couldn't make that do without them. If you have time while you're listening to this episode, whether you're driving or you're eating your lunch or whatever day of the week it is you're listening to your boy Splash, go leave me a review. I love the reviews. Even if it's a 1-star review, I don't care, because obviously, as a blue collar worker, I know I have things I can improve and be better at. So let me know. Leave me a review. Share with your friends. That's how we grow. And last, I will be in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada in September. Again, I don't know when this is going to be done, but there's an event there. It is Crank. It's actually being transformed into the Contractor Lab. I am one of the guest speakers. I'm very honored to be speaking there. So if you want to meet me live, I will be in Las Vegas. It's a 4-day course class, and it's in classroom, it's out of classroom. I am doing the social media part. You'll hear from me throughout those 4 days. I'm super excited and stoked about what we're going to be talking about. We'll have the social media course launched by that point in time. So stay tuned, buckle up, grab that hard hat, because we're going to get to some shit that I'm excited about. Without further ado, Courtney, how are you doing this morning?
Thank you, Splash. Not too bad, thank you. But obviously, it's evening over here in the UK, but it's really good to be talking to you.
That is right. It is. You're in the UK. I'm in America, and we have quite the time. It is 9:30 a.m. my time, and it is 4:30 your time, p.m.
4:38 my time, yes. Hence, it's time for, yeah.
Cheers. I would be joining you in
Cheers.
that. I would be joining you if I was upstairs with my whiskey glass. It's just a little too early, and my workout routine just doesn't allow the drink right now.
Absolutely.
Courtney, I met you through social media. As someone who does content creation, that's how I like to meet people. I do have a little bit of real friends in the real world, but majority of my friends hang out in the meta world. And I'm quite okay with that, because my dogs give me enough energy to be out and about today. You're a tool inventor. You created a product called the Cyclone.
Yes.
You gifted me one, which I'm very grateful for. I've had the honor to make it. We have done some videos. I've done some testing on it. And the reason I named this episode Out with the Old, In with the New is because I have used a very similar tool. I actually probably have 12 different ones from different companies, maybe some of the same. But your tool is brand new on the market. And I'm not saying this because you're on the podcast. I've told you this privately. It is the best paint mixer I have used in my entire life.
Bless you. Thank you very much indeed. And you are welcome. I'm so glad that we sent you one. Yeah, it was actually born out of exactly what you're talking about. There were many different variations on a theme. I mean, if I can go back to the beginning, I can explain exactly how we came about the whole process. Is that okay?
Absolutely, yeah. We want to hear. But first, let's get to the process. But let's give everyone a little bit background. Are you a painter? Because you built a paint tool. It's not just for painting, but the primary focus is for a paint contractor. The tool, but mudders can use them. There's a lot of different variations. If you paint auto glass, if you do resin tables, anything that you deal with liquid that you need a mix or mud. I dare say concrete too. I'm pretty sure that if you did the right amount, maybe.
We have done small amounts in a bucket without the gravel.
That's
If
good.
you pour a load of gravel in there, it's not going anywhere.
It's not going. Okay. So minus concrete, that's version 2.0. See, Courtney, we're getting ready for 2.0. So what is your background in the contractor world? Well, let our listeners know so they understand that you actually understand why you needed to create this tool. I think that's important for people to know what the background is.
Yeah, so I learned to paint and to prep more than anything on boats. I worked on tall ships when I was young, and I actually grew up sailing. and I was involved in toolship racing and other bits and pieces. Now, when I say toolships, I mean 55-foot pilot cutters, 72-foot masts, great big booms, everything made of wood, everything needed painting, and every season, every year throughout the winter, everything had to be sanded back to nothing. We used to use what's called a D1 oil on most of the woodwork to protect it rather than paint it, but it had an 11-foot keel. So when she was taken out of the water or put up against the wall on a low tide, I mean, it was just enormous. It was huge. The work that had to go into prepping and painting and the coats that were required. And then you had the anti-fouling and all the other bits and pieces. So that was my sort of introduction into painting, into prepping and painting and doing a good job, because you only got it 1 year, once a year, you got a chance to do it. And if you got it wrong, when you took it out, when you come to the next year, there's damage and there's wooden boards that need replacing and things of that nature. So I was very blessed that I had that as a starting point. Painting and decorating came from that. I did an awful lot of painting and decorating when I was younger. I did go into business for a while, working for a company, and then ill health meant that I came out of a sort of senior management role, serious ill health. And then I thought, no, I don't. I've had enough of that. I'm going to go and work for myself again. So I went back into it. I started painting and decorating again, and it was quite strange actually. When I came back into it, I was taking a bit longer than people were expecting, and I kept saying to them, "Yeah, but you realise how much prep is involved. If we don't get the prep right, then the finish is not going to last, and it's not going to look so good." But it's suddenly I'd been out of it for quite a while, and people were suddenly wanted everything now, and they wanted it in the next 5 minutes. And I've seen so many other guys, on your site, your Instagram account, and so many others who talk about, do you want it done properly or do you want it done quickly and cheaply? And it's such a big thing. So prep has always been a big thing of
So
mine.
you're speaking my love language there, Courtney. I don't care what blue collar trade you're in. Your money, yes, the knowledge of how to be an applicator is so important, but I could applicate a wall and spray a wall with my eyes closed. It's easy. It's so much muscle memory. But to prep, I mean, let's niche it down to like cabinet prepping.
All
It
right, yeah,
takes forever because, like, for those of you that are not cabinet painters, let me break this down. What Courtney will know this, and I didn't know you had this history, which I'm glad you're sharing with me because it makes more sense of why you created this tool to me. But when you spray cabinets, if you take the hinges off, you have to know exactly where that hinge went. You have to know if it's the top hinge or the bottom hinge. You have to know what door went to, what drawer the slider went into. So you have to mark everything. And for me, I bagged everything. I went through Ziploc bags out the
yes,
wazoo, you
yes,
know,
yes. Every screw, every bolt,
every
everything
screw. Yep.
goes in
And
that
it's,
spec. It's marked. That's where it goes. Bang, and there's no question.
yeah.
There's no
And
answer. There's
so
no argument.
here in the States, it's good to hear that you guys have this in the UK as well. In the States, we do get that hey, I need this done now mentality. And I have I blame one thing and one thing only. HGTV. You kind of ruin the
Really.
trades. Y'all should give me a call because you have my screen. I wrote them a screen, like a screenplay. Basically, I gave
Yeah,
them a show idea, and I know it's sitting on one of your desks. So someone tag HGTV in this and let them know your boy Splash sent you guys a very detailed oriented show that we should do because you really have ruined it. I don't want to say ruined, maybe that's too harsh, but you really have made it to where contractors feel like they just throw it up. And then houses break, the paint chips, the concrete fails, the framing's off by 2 inches. I mean, I can go on in every trade that you really don't have. I think I'm not a mutter, so like any drywallers listening is going to hit me, like you have 5-star sanding or I don't know what, like 5-star walls. I actually don't even forget what they call it here in the States, but like
yeah,
it's like I can walk into any house that's been built since 1995 ish roughly and newer. It's just thrown together. The detail
yeah,
is just
yeah,
gone.
yeah. It's funny. My wife is a big fan of things like the Property Brothers.
Yeah, yeah.
And over here we get that. It was a recent one. They did the Property Brothers IOU, where celebrities were thing. And of course, that's a 50-minute show, an hour-long show with a few adverts. And it's like, oh, isn't that amazing? They did that so quickly. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. No, no, it didn't happen in the course of that program.
No, it didn't.
That was days and weeks in the making. It's just edited down to the program. And it does make it seem as if everything can be done like that. You just wave a wand, Harry Potter comes along and you've got a new room. No, no. But it's funny you talk about you're looking at your older houses now. I know in terms of history, England, UK, we've got houses that go back 400, 500, 600 years, 700 years that are still up and still working as homes and still being used as homes. So we also have a long history of having to understand what a house interior is supposed to look like as well. So it's very important over here that any kind of renovation, any kind of painting, any kind of decoration is in keeping with the property, the way the property is supposed to look. And when you've got walls that are, I'm not joking, you can have walls 4 foot thick, 5 foot thick from the 15th century, 16th century, and they're not normal plaster, they're not normal paint, and they're not, and everything has to be looked at properly. But in those situations, if you don't do it properly, you will ruin what is ostensibly a museum, a beautiful home.
No,
So you
absolutely.
have to do it properly.
I recently did this on social media. I know everyone listens is on social media, but for those that don't know, you can like duet and stitch videos back. I saw this DIYer. She has a decent following. To me, a decent following is over 15,000, maybe 10,000. It's a decent following, and she was talking about adding Floetrol to how she started using Floetrol to paint her cabinets and her doors. And I duetted the video, and she was right that Floetrol can really help the extended time of a paint. But I went into detail about like, hey, if you're going to use Floetrol, there's a lot of things I'm the paint nerd. I really am. Like the science of paint, I just fell in love with it. It's stupid, but it's me. That's why I'm Splashed. And the comments I got on it were great, but she wrote me back. She's like, hey, why would you like throw me under the bus? I'm like, listen, I didn't throw you under the bus. I actually complimented you on your video. I'm added on saying, hey, you have to be careful, because if you add Floetrol to like cabinet paint, it will chip. It will fail that product. More like that's really important. The other part of that is the dry time that you're extending. Homeowners don't want that. And so when you're coming from the spectrum that I come from, where you're like, hey, I'm going to show you how a product works, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to tell you why. Like these videos, in a sense, I just feel, and maybe it's just me being the ego I have, like you have to hold yourself to a higher standard. And that's one thing I tell blue collar men and women, like, I don't care how long a job takes you. If you're doing it right, you're worth the value. And you need to have that conversation. I know I'm going deeper in this, Courtney, but like you have to have that deeper conversation of like, hey, I want this done the right way, which leads me to your invention, the Cyclone. Like you took a tool that, for those that don't know, if you're watching a video, I'm going to hold up mine. Now mine has paint all over it. What it is basically
Splash. You're supposed to clean it.
The holes are the holes are clean through. No, the paint peels off pretty quickly.
It does.
I literally just did this yesterday. So you attach it to your drill. I have attached to my Hart drill. Yes, everyone. I own Hart drills. I own Ryobi. I also own Milwaukee and Rigid. I own all those. I own all the kids. Like this just happens to be the drill I was using. But the interesting thing is it's very lightweight, but what you did is like, for those that don't understand, I'll give you my perspective and then I'll let Courtney explain his tool in a greater sense. If you've ever mixed paint, you get your paint on a Monday, then you go and prep it like we were talking about. It may take you a day or two. You need to remix the paint because a lot of the particles go down to the bottom. So then your paint mixer now, It is just for gallons. I have mixed a 5 gallon in it, but this one specifically looks like it's made just for a gallon. And go watch my video on Instagram because I think I did the slow motion video as well. It's really interesting, the uniqueness of it. But ultimately, there's 7 holes on it. There's a center hole there's actually 9 holes. There's a center hole, and then there's two, or like the size of a quarter. But if it was cut out and you just have the ring around it, but you beveled them. I'm using the word bevel. I could be wrong, but you like
Yes,
bevel
yes,
the opposite sides of them. So when you're mixing, it actually goes through the liquid through the holes by adding air into it and mixes the paint. You would think, well, Splash, I have a paint mixer. You don't have a cyclone. My point is this: is that most of the ones are very stiff. They're solid. There's no holes in it. You actually aren't picking up all the particles. But as a painter, as a decorator, you know if you have your paint shaken right, it leads to little to no issues because
yeah,
all those particles that make paint are mixed thoroughly together. So
yeah.
let's fast forward. How did you come up? Where did this idea spawn from? Like, were you having a beer? Were you painting a house? Did you break?
Yes,
Did
yeah.
you break a wood stick and like I'm tired of using these stir stickers? Like, what happened?
No, no. Well, let me first of all, I'll introduce number one in a minute. So, um, a good friend of mine, Phil, had just moved his family back from Singapore, and they bought a house literally within 10 minutes of where I used to live, and it was a large house, and he engaged me to paint it, and but he wanted to help, so he wanted to do it with me. You know, he was in a position to. So I said, yeah, no, fantastic. So the two of us set to. We had a lot of, it's a main house with a gallery between sort of an annex stroke, enormous man cave. I mean, a huge man. Every man, you can fit cars and bikes and everything in this thing. It's the ultimate man cave. And he even went to the point of putting a fireman's pole in there just for fun. I mean, it's a man, it's a real man cave. So on this particular day, we'd painted most of the rooms, but on this particular day, the gallery between the two buildings, the sun was absolutely flowing in. It was beautiful, beautiful day. The sun was pouring in. And his wife had decided that they were going for a really beautiful golden sun yellow. It was a really deep yellow, like a free range egg, gold yolk. It was a really nice color. And we thought, okay, well, we'll start at either end. I've got one tin, you've got another, and we'll mix them up and get them ready. And you start that end, I'll start that end, and we'll meet in the middle. So we got going on the ceiling, and because the sun was so bright, within half an hour of putting the paint on the wall, we realized it was a totally different color. We literally, if you walk to one end of the gallery, and the other end, we're looking at a light color and a dark color. And these were never, I mean, it was, and the sunlight was perfect, everything was perfect, there was no shadowing, and we looked and looked and thought, that can't be right, it's the same paint. So we thought, okay, we need to mix them properly. So we did sticks and things like that, and then I said, right, I'm off, I'm going to go and get whatever I can. So I went to over here you have Home Depot, Ace, Lowe's, we have Wix, B&Q, and Kent Blackshill, Brewers, companies of that nature, Screwfix, and Tool Station. So I went and I got everything I could that you could put in a drill. I bought them all. I had about 7 products. And we got back, and 2 of which we put in, took out, and just threw away. It was just pointless. There was no point in them even being in the paint. One of them started actually moving the paint, but then we realized that on the base of it, where it's obviously cut off by the machines, it's a really sharp rim on the bottom. So you can't touch the bottom of the can because you're going to rip you could end up with metal flakes or plastic in your can. So we got frustrated with that. It was too heavy. And we thought there must be a better way. There must be a better way. And so we were looking for stuff around the man cave. He's an engineer, electrical engineer. We were looking for bits and pieces. And so I turned around and I saw him. He was kneeling down in the middle of the man cave. This is literally how it happened. And he had a long stem of stainless steel, and on the end of it was a loop. That was it, just a long stem with the loop. And he was spinning that round and round in the thing. And I was, like engineers' drawers with all the fuses and everything. I was pulling, it's got to be about 200 drawers in this thing, pulling them all open. And I opened one, and there was a piece of metal about yay long with holes in it. And I went over to him and I said, look, put that across there and see what happens. So he cable tied it on, and literally that was cyclone number one. This here is the back bracket off a car radio. And this loop, to this day, we still actually don't know what it is or why he had it. But that is the very first time when we span that up and we realized that this section here could rest on the bottom of the container without doing any damage and hold this bar above the base.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. We thought, wow, that's amazing, isn't that great? And we didn't do anything about it for a couple of months. And he said, look, are we gonna try something? Are we gonna do anything with this? So we located a friend of both of ours, who, well, mainly a friend of Phil's, who said that he would happily get us a couple cut out of stainless steel and machined to see whether there was actually something to go with. So he very kindly had this prototype made. It's out of 5mm, so it's a 5mm stem with a 5mm impeller.
Mm-hmm.
And then we put the holes in it, and I said to him, what about if we bevel the holes? So when you bevel them, so they actually get shallower. So he beveled them for us.
But
And
you
I
have
looked
them
into the,
beveled. So those that don't know, they're beveled on the opposite side. The
yes,
science, when I first saw the tool, I immediately knew. I knew, as I go, okay, this person understands science, because hence the
yes,
name Cyclone. The smaller the hole it pulls in the air or liquid, then in turn releases it for
right.
purity.
Fluid dynamics
Yep.
is exactly what you're talking about. And so
I don't know the
we
name of
actually
it, but
found,
I just
yeah,
know
yeah,
it.
we actually found that the 5mm was too thick. It was too
Mm-hmm.
heavy and too thick. It wasn't. It just wasn't right. So we decided that we would try a 3mm impeller on a 5mm stem with a decent weld to hold it together to make sure it would work. And then, as you can see with the one you're showing, they're beveled on this side, and then turn around and they're beveled on this side.
So
So
3 holes are beveled. Those that aren't watching, so it's basically. Let me put it to what it like in the U.S. Picture one of those like metal straps that you tie down to like tie down your PVC pipe if you're plumbing. It's basically like that, but it's a thicker piece. It's a 3mm, and it's what is it? Maybe 5 inches, 5.5.
it's 6 mil. It's 12 centimeters across. Oh, yes, 12 centimeters across, about 27 centimeters in length, and each hole is about 6 mil wide, and then the bevel is 10 mil. So the bevel goes from 10 down into 6. So the holes are
Yep.
6, and then the
And
bevel
that's
10.
where that science comes to, because
Yes.
and if you talk about, let's back a little bit. You bought multiple other tools the day that you went and got these.
Oh,
And it's
we have.
again, it's I always tell people this when I go to the trade shows and I meet new inventors. They always want to like, well, I was using this tool, and I tell every contractor that's out there, every single one of you has an idea for a tool creation. The problem is that you don't have the discipline to see it through. Because really, I mean, you and your friend probably drank a few beers. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
you probably had a
Yeah.
lot of, maybe conversations like, hey, what do you think about this? But it took a few months to say, hey, we're going to build this. You know,
Yes.
um, how long for those that I mean, and I tell people this all the time. If you're going to invent a tool, it's like having a kid. You
Yeah.
you you
Oh,
you
okay. Okay.
gotta birth it. So you make a few, and sometimes babies are ugly at the beginning, and they turn out to be really
Yeah.
cute and awesome. Like, let's just
Yeah.
call it what it is. But
Yeah.
okay, no one has an ugly
Absolutely. And
baby.
and
I don't want to get hit in the
the
face. No one has an ugly baby. Okay.
no one's like, but Splash, what you do is you hide it away from the world. You hide it
Yes,
away.
you
Don't
do.
tell anyone. Shh. Don't
That's
mention
that.
it.
I want to hit. I love that you said that, Courtney. In in one of my social media courses that we're getting ready to launch, um, there's a chapter dedicated. There's some topics that I talk about. One of the topics is simply that don't be a teller, be a doer. If you start doing things in life, one, people see and notice. Two, you're more successful because honestly, I read this quote from a gentleman named Ed Milet. I actually think I've met him once or twice in my life. I know he's a motivational speaker for contractors, but he had this quote and it goes something like this. It's not verbatim, but it basically, I'll dumb it down in a nutshell. He says, our thoughts are our currency.
Right.
What he's saying is the thoughts that we have are the things that generate our money.
Hmm.
That really holds true to blue collar workers. I mean, nothing against white collar people. I'm married to an amazing white collar person. She does turn her thoughts into money because she's moved herself up and progressed. But in the realm of being blue collar, you have to think from start A to Z how you're going to create and finish a product.
Yeah.
A lot of people get to like F and G, maybe even to the letter R, and then they give up or they start telling everybody. But you're right. Hide your baby, work on it, fine tune it, teach it, then let it out into the world. Let a few people test them
You,
out.
Splash, you're absolutely right. And I mean, we went through all of those processes, and we were very blessed that we had people around us who were able to be in contact or get us contacts who we trusted. And it's very difficult. It's so difficult to trust people when you start to really believe that you have something and start to really believe that you're onto something. It's a very scary time to start letting people into that picture, because yeah, you do have the big dream. Will it make it? Will you get it to the market? Will you do all of those things that you hope it will do? And so many don't make it. So many don't make it. But we looked at everything. Could we make it of plastic? We had a chap come from Ireland, from a plastics factory in Ireland. Lovely guy. We all sat down. We went through it. We went through it. We went through it. And the ultimate answer was absolutely not. It cannot be made because the sheer velocity that it spins at means that any plastic would give, it would break. And then you've got shards of plastic in a 80-pound tin of paint, and that's the end of it. So that was out the window. So we had to make a decision. It couldn't be made cheaply. It couldn't be done. So we said,
And
right,
a lot of paint mixers on the market have a metal shaft and they're plastic tipped, they're plastic fed. I actually have a few plastic ones. So
yeah, there's a plastic one. Am I allowed to mention product?
yeah, absolutely, yeah, yeah.
So there's one of our very first review was done by a guy called the Ultimate Handyman here in the UK. Fantastic guy, really knows his stuff. He's got a great YouTube channel over here in the UK. He did our first. Now, when he received ours and he was talking about it, he actually had one of the Bosch ones with the plastic spinning end,
Yeah.
and he just twisted it and pulled it off. He said it actually came off in his hand, and it came off in the tin he was spinning up. So it's worthless. So his money was down the drain. And it's just little examples like that where quality counts. So we realized it's going to have to be the Rolls Royce of paint mixers, or we can't do it because it is going to cost a bit more. Now, most of the metal ones, especially the Helix ones that people don't realize, are steel covered in a zinc paint. And I've shown pictures on my Instagram, and there's plenty of others. When people spin up with those Helix ones, they get flecks of paint that come off and flecks of paint in their actual paint. That's because it's just painted steel. And if you scratch that steel and you don't realize it and it rusts and you stick that in an expensive paint, guess what? You've just contaminated your paint. So
Absolutely.
there's all sorts of different issues with those things that are out there. So we went, right, we're making the best. Whether it works or not, we're making the best. And these are 304 stainless steel, the stem and the impeller. It's 304 stainless steel. This is it's as solid as you could
It's quite
ever want it
beautiful
to
in
be.
person. I will say that. It's honestly it's shiny. The thought was into it. So let's get back to the reviews. I do need to hear from our sponsor here in a minute. So we'll be
Yes.
back. We're gonna hear from our sponsors, take a drink, and we'll be back. We're gonna talk about the first people starting to use the Cyclone. Hey everyone, Splash here with Monkey Run Products, your go-to ladder safety and paint and accessories. Let's first talk about their paint accessories. If you're going through rollers and just tired of throwing them away or just don't have the time to clean them, they have the new Spin Pro and Spin Pro Mini available. It's an amazing tool to do your 3-inch all the way up to your 18-inch if you have the wherewithal to use those monstrous rollers on the job site. Also, their ladder accessories are amazing. It's like having an extra hand up on the ladder, but safely being able to access all your tools that you need to get the job done. Visit my friends at monkeyrung.com, use my code SPLASH10, and make sure you subscribe to their emails because they have a whole list of tools coming out for 2023 and you do not want to be left behind. All right, thank you. Go get your Monkey Run products. They have a new product coming out for you painters. It is only for painters and stainers. Go take a look at it, monkeyrung.com, and use my code SPLASH. Courtney, with the invention of a tool, some people, from my experience, usually partner up. There's a lot of money that goes into being a tool creator. And I always tell everyone, I get the DMs, I get the phone calls. Hey, I have this idea. And I always tell everyone, first off, give me an NDA. Like I don't, I understand the risk of having the conversation, but I also understand that like these things are thought out first and foremost. And so, when people come to me with ideas, some of them, they just like, no, I just want to tell you what it is. Like, what do you think? And I'm very transparent with that. I never invest in a product. I just, let's make that clear. For my position, it is not because I don't trust the product or believe in it. It has zero to do with that. It's that I personally have spent close to 18 months trying to work with a company, invest in the company, take over the company, lawyers and all that jazz. And after 18 months, the actual inventor, it was just not a good experience. I have a saying for it. I probably won't say it right now, maybe later on, but like, you mentally, inventors, and nothing personal, Courtney, but maybe you've had this experience, but like, if you're an inventor, you need to understand that you either are going to own that product the rest of your life or you're going to sell it. That's one big decision I tell everyone. It's like I said, back to having a kid. If you have a kid, is the kid going to live with you forever or are they going to go off to college and make their own money? That's when you sell it. If they stay at home and live with you in the basement, nothing wrong with that for some people, not for me. But some kids like that, they better be paying rent. You better be bringing money in to help. And inventors, there comes a point when you're inventing a product that you're like, I'm going to go all in, put all my chips on the table, or I'm not. When was there a time throughout this process that you had that where you were like, hey, I believe in this product. I'm going to make this work. You're on mute, Courtney. Hold on one sec.
So,
There you
Splash,
go.
you can
Okay.
hear me now? Yeah,
Yep.
sorry. So, yeah, you're absolutely right, Splash. I think no process no process is simple, especially when you've got friends involved and business and other bits and pieces. So we took it to a particular stage. Now I'll fill you in on some details about NDAs and bits and pieces later. But after 18 months or so, things were going okay. It was we had our prototypes back from China. Everything was starting to come together. The NDAs were in place and bits and pieces. But my friend Phil, who I co-invented it with, it just didn't seem to be as enthusiastic as I was. So I asked him outright. I said, "Look, do you believe in it? Do you believe in it that you want to give it?" And his reply, honestly, was, "No, I don't." And I thought, okay, so this is a dynamic change. He's a great guy, fantastic guy, really clever engineer, but this isn't something you can't go into a buyer's office and sit down with someone who thinks, nah, this isn't going anywhere. It doesn't work as a business. It doesn't work from a sales point of view or anything else. So we decided that from a business perspective, we would then part ways. Phil was bought out and everything's fine and it's all no problems. However, the blind faith, the blind perseverance, the stupidity of just going after it regardless, when there's no money, when there's when the accountant's bills comes in and you don't know where it's coming from, and the intellectual property renewals come every year, which they do. I didn't realize that, but they do every year without fail. When we first spent thousands of pounds putting all this intellectual property in place, USA, Canada, Europe, all over the place, and we're just like, fantastic. And then come the following year, oh, Courtney, it's time for renewals. And sorry, what renewals? I've just spent a fortune on this. I'm paying it every year. So the dynamics change in that sense. But when you get set into it, I own the company. I'm very, very blessed to have a couple of shareholders, one of whom came on board very early. He worked with blue chip companies for a long, long time, and his advice was just, Richard, bless his heart, he's a director of the company, very, very unwell at the moment, but what a wonderful man, and just so much knowledge and experience and understanding. But it wasn't until we'd gotten past that NDA process and the intellectual property stuff had started. Once we stuck our flag in the ground for the PCT with the intellectual property, then I could relax and say, okay, now I'm prepared to open up about it and be more verbal about it and start creating things. Because anything we then did in the future, so long as we did it within the 3-year period, could be traced back to when we put that patent cooperation treaty together, because you get a 3-year period in order to then go on and take national patents. So once I began to understand the process, I began to relax a little bit, and I began to understand that we could cope with that. But obviously, do you mind me keep talking?
No, you're good. You're good.
It was really, the China was a big problem. China, obviously in the past, China, this is 10 years ago, 9 years ago, China had a reputation for pinching everybody's ideas and doing bits and pieces. And I have to say to people, if you're going to do this, there's a lot of luck involved. There really is a lot of luck involved, because you meet the right people at the right time. My Richard, my director, best friend, my dear friend Richard, his son actually works over in the States. He's in San Francisco. He's now in Colorado. He's a computer geek, brilliant computer program, company startups and all sorts. And his fiance at the time was an American from Colorado who did research and development for a stainless steel manufacturer in America that made stainless steel products. To cut a long story short, she was going to China via my friend's house. She was coming over, stopping, staying for a week, and blah, 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 then going to China, seeing her manufacturer, then going back to America. So I had dinner with her when she was here, showed her the product, went through the process. She took the non-disclosure agreements with her to China, to the manufacturer she was going to. She went through the process with them, explained it, asked them to sort some prototypes out. They signed the NDAs, and then she sent them back to me. Now, I can't tell you how many corners that cut and how much money that saved, but it was just a joy. It was a real blessing, that process. So, it doesn't always happen like that, but it was at that time, this is what happened. And we were able to literally skip an entire process and an entire cost in order for those NDAs to come back to give us some security. And because we had that personal connection as well, it just made it all the more safe. It was so there's moments like that I look back on years and years ago and think, wow, it's mind blowing. But there's other parts where, as I say, a bill comes in and you don't know where the money's coming from. And then your best mate turns around and says, really, if it was any good, it had been invented already. And other people saying, oh, surely you're going to give up on that now. And there's those times. Those are the times when you say, no, I believe in it. It's a good product. Everyone who uses it loves it. It's got great reviews. The professionals love it. I'm going nowhere. I'm sticking with this to the end,
Yeah.
regardless.
It's interesting. Um, in my line of being the podcaster that helps new tool inventors, I hear a lot of, well, my friends didn't think it was going to work, or like you said, if it was that great of a tool, someone would have invented it. The problem is this: 7% of tools that are actually made, like of the, let's say there's 100 tools that get made in China, demos, prototypes, name it what you want. Only 7 of those actually get made and sold online or in stores. And the reason is one, lack of money, which doesn't need to be the issue, but it is an issue at times. 2 is they don't have the discipline. You got to be disciplined. You have to understand that, like when you ask your friend, and it makes 100% sense. I'm of the mindset, just because I've heard stories, I don't want to do business with my friends. If I break bread with you, drink beers, golf, I'm never, ever, ever going to do business with you. It doesn't mean I don't love you. I will
Yeah.
support you. I will be your number one fan. But at the end of the day, I believe this wholeheartedly. And my wife has heard me say this. When I've said this to my wife, she kind of like bit back, and I said, no, it's just the truth of it. Sit with it. Now she understands it. Nobody cares about you and your product. Nobody cares about you and
No,
your business.
no one, no one.
Nobody.
No.
And the great thing about that, Courtney, is that's actually a really good thing, that nobody cares. Now, that's not to say that nobody loves you or supports you, but when you put your head to bed, your wife isn't thinking about the cyclone. My wife wasn't thinking about splash painting. Now, she may have thought, man, my husband's mental health, Courtney's health, Splash's health, but
Yeah.
she didn't worry about how I was going to pay the bills, how the and I say this because people are like, well, yeah, your wife should care or your spouse should care. It's not that. If you own a business or you're a tool inventor, nobody cares about your business.
No.
You have cheerleaders. You have cheerleaders.
Oh yeah.
But those cheerleaders don't come with the thought,
No. And my wife is so excited about me being on this with you today, Splash, and other people in it, and it's fantastic. Because it's you're absolutely right that there's many ways people say, well, you get a product to market and everything, or it turns out to be okay, and you say, well, they bought it. You bought your way to the marketplace because you spent X amount of hundreds of thousands of pounds to get it there, without the passion and without the trial and without the error, or you start with nothing, which is where we are. I'm tens of thousands into this, but it's personal money. There's no company here. There's
Yeah.
no big, see you back there. This is me and my two friends who've come in. There's a substantial amount of money involved, but it's all personal money. And it's funny, just going back to your question, making that decision about whether you're in it for the long term or whether you're going to sell is actually a decision you need to make quite early.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that,
Because,
Courtney. Thank you for
no,
saying that.
bless you, no, it's such an important thing. You have to know what your goal is before you start down the process. You've got to make a decision about how you are going to get out of this process if it works. Because and I'll be honest with you, my decision has always been to build it to. I believe that the market is there worldwide. I believe the market is there, and I know that I genuinely believe that the marine version of the Cyclone will be the biggest seller of all. And I say that with honesty, because
When you say
whilst
marine, you
DIYs,
mean like the aqua, the
yeah,
resin.
so no, so at the moment this is made of 304 stainless steel. Now, having sailed for years, I've been on tall ships. The things that you need on a boat more than anything else are tools that will last, that will do anything, So you need them to do more than one thing, and that take up no space, and that you can clean easily in a small space, because all boats are the same. And we will be making a marine grade version of this,
Okay.
which will be 4 holes. So we'll also have the 4 hole version available for smaller tins for everybody. But I don't believe there's a boat in the world that couldn't use it, because
Yeah.
you literally put it in a drawer and it will mix anything you need.
I can
So
mix my
I think,
pancakes with it.
oh yeah, no, I've double cream cake mix. I've done
Yeah.
it. I got into trouble, Splash, I have to say, because obviously, you know, being me, when I got the cake mix and the cream and everything out, I put my toolbox on the side in the kitchen. I got my drill out and I got my chargers out, and I had the whole kitchen side filled with tools. And then I was mixing it up, and it wasn't a clean process. So when my wife came home, there was no love lost there. She wasn't happy, but
Hey,
I did it.
that just
You know,
means you're trying, and I love that.
exactly,
I
exactly.
and there's one other option I want to tell everyone, and it's a I think you're doing it, and I may be overstepping my voice here, so I apologize in advance if I am. But like, so there's the option to build a tool and sell it outright. There's the option to
Mhm.
keep the tool and you handle everything. You're the face, the voice, all that jazz. The third option is it's a tier two, which I do like. Um, it's just you have to be very business savvy to understand it, which it sounds like you are. Is that you partner up? You
Yeah.
The example would be this: is everybody knows who Graco is. Everybody knows who Titan. Shout out to my sponsor Graco. If you're a paint sprayer, you need to go pick up the Graco, powered by DeWalt. It's an amazing product. Let's talk about their competitor Titan. So I know this from experience because what a lot of you don't know is Splash has helped sell products to Graco and Titan behind the scenes. Boom! I told you all something you never knew about Splash. So anywho, when you have a product, so let's just use your Cyclone. When you have a Cyclone, you may sit Monday at a table with Graco and then Tuesday with Titan. Okay? On Friday, they're both going to call you and say, hey, we like the idea. Here's 350,000 plus 10% worldwide for 10 years. A smart business person would say, hey, well, let's back up. What Graco is going to say is, hey, we're going to make it blue. What Titan's going to say is, we're going to make it red. Option 3 is this. It says, hey, I'll take 250,000. You can have the red version Titan. Graco, I'll give you 250. You make a blue version. You name it Cyclone, or you can rename it what you want, but I get 5% royalties for 20 years and a 7% upfront. These are big numbers, people, like in the scheme. These are actual numbers that you go to. Then what you've just done is now you've said, okay, my tool is not only being sold by Graco, it's being sold by Titan, and it's a different color. I don't care because my checkbook looks good. So there is that third option. I call it partnerships. I know the universe calls it something else, but for me, it's just a dummied down version of saying, hey, you created a tool, you're going to partner. And one of the things with tool inventors, I just had this conversation 2 weeks ago. Company calls me up, hey, we have this product. And I do charge. So if you're a tool inventor, I do charge to have these meetings with me, but it's how I make my money and do the podcast. And it was a 2-hour meeting. And at the very end of the meeting, I asked the person that question, because it's always the last question I ask someone. Is your goal to keep this and see it through on shelves and online sales, and you handle the packaging, the marketing, or are you going to sell it? And this woman, the lady, she says, well, I have 7 other tools I want to invent. My mind goes different. I have a different mindset. Now, you have a market space now. If you know you're going to invent one tool, you have a market space. And that conversation really changes because you can partner up with Lowe's and Home Depot, Bosch, Milwaukee, DeWalt. Let's throw all the names out that we can. Because a lot of these companies, like I know, we'll just say TTI. TTI owns Milwaukee, Hart, and Ryobi. For those that don't know, they actually own those 3 companies. But they also own single tool companies. And what happens is tool inventors like yourself, if you come to like Milwaukee, they may say, hey, we like that idea, but can we put other things on it? Can we make the concept? They're going to change your concept a little bit. I'm telling you right now, because I've sat in those meetings, be open
Mm.
and just know that, like you said earlier, I always teach from the perspective of inventors, like, have a dollar amount in mind. If someone comes to you and says, hey, I'm going to give you $500,000 right now and some royalties, have your attorney look at it. But if
Yeah.
your number's 500,000, do it. If anybody, I've said this on a few podcasts, if you're at a trade show or you're on the phone and someone says, hey, Courtney, that's $1 million idea, Courtney, stop the fucking conversation and tell the person, write me a check right now for $1 million. I don't mean to be the heartbreaker. I know I'm not that attractive looking, but I'm going to break a lot of hearts here right now. If someone says to you, I got $1
Yeah.
million idea, get your fucking checkbook out, because you will not make it. Less than 10% of 1%. That's a small number. Let's say that again. Of
Yes.
the 1% that make it, less than 10% of them actually make $1 million.
Yeah.
If you like, I know off the podcast, I hope you don't mind me sharing this with you, but like, your business model is you've kind of fanned out your percentages. You own a certain percentage. You've gifted a percentage to family because you're a very
Mm.
caring person, which I love. You're a family man. You have friends who've invested their own money. You have a real job on top of being this tool inventor. And
Mhm.
now you're using social media influencers like myself. You're using obvious solutions here in America. I know who they are. They make other products.
Yeah.
You're cross branding. I call it cross pollinating. You're cross pollinating with a company who could have looked at you as a competitor, but the
Mm.
conversation you had with, I think his name is Chris. I could be wrong. I know who he is.
Yes, Chris. Yeah.
The conversation you had with Chris from Obvious Solutions was like, hey, I have this product. I think it'd go great with yours. And you worked a deal out. That's highly
Yeah.
intelligent, Courtney. Highly intelligent. So kudos to you. But now you're slowly, I mean, I don't know. I'd have to check. I know that on one of the videos we had a few thousand views, and we're getting up there. I mixed mud a few days ago and sent that out to you. There's a lot of different things that
Mm.
we're doing with the social media content creation part, but like, you have to be willing to sit down for 10 years. Like, you've been doing this for 10 years now.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And
Very much so.
I don't know how you feel about this because I've never been to the UK, but if you want to invite me over, I will come over. I want to go to trade shows. I do want to, I'm openly inviting myself, but send me an invite. I want to go to some trade shows in the
Yeah.
UK. I always tell people that go to trade shows this. If you went, we'll use the National Hardware Show. Love them. Love the people at National Hardware Show. But if you're a new inventor and you're showing up to more than, my personal opinion, Splash's opinion here, if you've been to 5 years with the same tool at the same trade show, that sixth year you should come with something different.
Mm.
You got to have a different approach,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you're beating yourself over the head trying to sell the same thing to people that have seen your product so many times and they didn't buy
Mm.
it. And that's why I tell everyone with the blue collar tribe, what I do is you have to be on social media. You can't wait to just sell on a store shelf. It doesn't work. It'll never work.
It's Splash. I think it's really important to understand that if anybody out there is inclined to thinks they've got a good idea or invents something and comes up with something and thinks in 5 years' time I'm going to be a millionaire, stop what you're doing, because you know you, as you said, a tenth of 1%, 10% of 1% get through to that point, and it's so rare and it's so odd that they make TV programs about it because it's so rare. Dragon's Den, Shark's Tank, whatever it is. And even then, they don't always succeed. They're great ideas and things like that, and they have money thrown at them, but they don't always succeed. But if you're gonna do it alone, if you're gonna go it alone, you have to allow yourself the the understanding that you're going to be doing this for a long time. Whether you're doing it part time, full time, whatever, you're going to be doing it for a long time. If things speed up along the way, if you get a break, like the China break I was talking about earlier, if you get a bit of luck on the way. If somebody calls you, like over here in the UK, a chap called Tool Talk One, Wayne, rang me. He'd seen it, he'd heard it, he'd seen it reviewed. He wanted to see it himself, wanted to try it, wanted to review it himself. What a fantastic friendship that's made. He absolutely loves. He's got 4 of them, and I've had so much great experience to pull on from people like that. But I have always believed that because the professionals felt it was the best one available, the professionals used it, that it would get there. It would get there. We'd make it as long as we stuck to it, as long as we persevered. And by persevering and by keeping going, I was approached 3.5 years ago. So I went down a slightly different route by licensing the product to a company called JD Brands, which is Jordan Decker. Now, I don't know if you guys over there in the UK
I've heard of them, but I don't know whom they are. I know the name.
So there's a product called Grip It. Have you heard of Grip It, which is a disc that you can drill into plasterboard and you turn the middle and the wings come out at the back?
Okay.
Now, well, he invented that and was on Dragon's Den. And now that company's moved on, and Mac is the guy who holds the license now for the Cyclone. So I allowed them to license the Cyclone because I couldn't do it all. I genuinely couldn't do it all. There was no way I had the finances,
to you
the
for
ability.
Knowing you can't do it all. Kudos to you.
There was no way. So I knew that the only way I could naturally give the Cyclone its next step up was by partnering, as you say, with a company that were genuinely interested in this type of product and in something that worked and did the job. We had the meetings, they took it on board. COVID hit, literally. We signed the first contract on the 11th of October, 2019. COVID hit in the January, and everything, I think, we're probably 18 months behind where we should be. But Mac and his guys have been fantastic, and we are now selling thousands. Over here in the UK, we're doing fantastically, selling into Europe, doing really, really well, and now thanks to yourself, Splash, and Chris over there at Obvious Solutions. We're able to start promoting and start pushing it in America. And I haven't seen anyone do a video of it yet anywhere and say they weren't totally happy with it and they didn't think it was great. And if I can just come back quickly, I don't want to take up time.
You're good.
Just to understand, because we touched on fluid dynamics earlier, and it's just to help people very quickly understand. If you go to a large factory where they're mixing stuff all the time, you will see that their impellers are on a slant. So as they go round, they're angled. The reason for this is when you go through liquid and you continually turn, you have something called cavitation. Now, cavitation it's like the liquid goes up underneath and over the top, and when it meets at the back, it's a bit of an explosion. It's like a little mini explosion. It's called cavitation, and it damages over time, over a long period of time. It can damage the metal. So if you've got something that's spinning 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and you want it to last as long as possible. So they put it on an angle. But cavitation is our friend. We want that explosion, because by tapering these holes where you can't compress liquid, but you can speed it up. So when the liquid is forced through the tapered hole, it gets faster. So we've got the liquid over the top, underneath, the speed going through it, plus the downforce of the impeller as well. And because you can touch the bottom of the container, as it spins, you have multiple processes. So it's pushing the paint out to the sides, up, and then sucking it straight back down the cyclone again, putting it through the holes, through the thing, and then pushing it out again. So it means that if you do, paint is not cheap, especially if you want to do something really well. If you get some Zinza with the glue in it, Zinza 1, 2, 3, things like that, you want to make sure it's mixed properly. Anti-fouling on boats, it's a 3-part complex. You've got your copper finings, you've got your chemicals, you've got your paint. It's £100 a tin. You want to get it right.
Yeah.
If you got half a tin, you want it to mix the next day perfectly, and you want and if you're doing a job and you put the lid on half a tin, the next morning you go back to do the job, you want the color to stay the same. So, and we're going to be doing it. We are doing a longer stem version as well,
for the 5
which will
gallons.
be, so it's going to be a 7 mil and a 5 mil. So it'll be a 7 mil shaft with a 5 mil impeller that will allow you to go into much deeper buckets. But the fluid dynamics, by doing that process, that's why that video that you showed, Splash, on yours, where the water had split on the top, and you just in slow motion you showed it going down. That was less than 30 seconds that took to suck all that through, and that's purely because of the fluid dynamics of coming back up, down through, and then through the spinning process.
And that's why I did that video that way. I wanted to see. I had done it in a paint can at first, and I did it. Let me, if I can, Courtney. Let me. I know I messaged you, but let me give you my tool review on your product. Okay, it's for the podcast. When I saw the product, obviously, whenever I see a product, I'm like, I'll try it. I don't ever think negative about it, but I immediately have questions. So the paint mixer I have, I think it's a Hyde. I could be wrong, but I think it's the Hyde version. The reason I liked it is because it was like an octopus. It was a metal shaft with plastic yellow, and it kind of like it came off almost like a flower that was wilting. But the reason I liked it is because it hit the bottom of the can and mixed up the paint. Now, I typically don't use old paint. However, sometimes you just have primer or whatever laying around. So my first question is it going to mix up the strings? Like, we've all had paint where you get it and there's like this thin or these thick layers because it's just old and it's inside the tin and it can't grab. Well, actually scratch that. That is not a Hyde tool I'm using. My red one is Hyde. So no, it is not a Hyde one. I don't know which one it is, but it doesn't matter. But I have this one that I really did like because it grabbed all the string of paint. And so when I pulled it out, it was there. I felt like it mixed it, but it was long. So when I got your product out, for those that don't know, I film every time I open up a box. So I don't even look at the product when I get it. I start filming. I don't know what it, I 50-50, I know it's in the box. So to your tool, I open the box. I know what it was because Chris from Obvious Solutions, and thank you, Chris, if you're listening. Thank you for the free tools you sent me in the product as well. I do appreciate it. It's a paint roller saver. But I got the product. I liked how shiny it was. It looked clean. It looked, to me, manufactured wise, that there was an extreme amount of thought that went through it. And then I noticed the bevel. Yeah. Now, the minute I saw the bevel, I'm like, fuck yeah. Okay. Now I know. So I went and grabbed a can of paint. I'm a nerd. I write dates on my paint. I'm a nerd. I knew when I opened it that it was just going to be different. It was going to be level. Like the paint, the white was at the bottom, that goldish tint water, but it was still valuable. Like, it's still a good product if mixed right. So in the video, you see that happening. And it was less than a minute. I was ready to paint. So one, it's a time saver. I'm not having to go there. The other thing is when I pulled it out, for those that are watching the video, all the little strings were above the cyclone part itself, which wrapped around, which I really liked. I'm like, okay, cool. It was really quick. Just peel it off and I'm good to go. It let me know that, in a sense, from the painter's perspective, it cleaned up the paint. So when I'm rolling a wall or brushing it, I'm not going to have to pick at little strings. It gets all those because of the turbulence of the speed it is. Then I had some fun with it. So I didn't get the name Splash by being clean. Let's just be real.
Oh, hang on. I know what you're going to say.
I didn't even think about it. So if you're looking at the video right now, on your drills, on most drills, there's a 2-speed. So I'll play this. It's going to be loud on the mic, but I'll play it so you guys can hear the difference. So this is on speed 1.
It's called instructions.
I know, but I'm blue collar. I don't read the fucking instructions. So this is speed 2. So, okay. So I didn't think anything about it. So I put it in and I'm like, and I tell my wife, I'm like, hey, come watch this. She's like, because my wife is curious. She likes to know what tools I get and if she can use it. And fucking paint went everywhere, Courtney. I'm like, this is a winner. I like it. But that but the reason I always love sharing videos. Like I know content creators. Like, I'm gonna throw all you assholes under a bus right now. You like all do your videos so perfect. Like, oh, look at this, and it took you 100 times to record it. Then there's me, because I'm an OG content creator. I'm like, I don't give a fuck what it looks like. I'm just gonna post it because someone else is gonna do it or find some humor in it. And paint was everywhere, everywhere. My shoes, and I'm like, okay, it's cool. But on the respectable side of saying, okay, does the tool work? Absolutely. Then I did mud. I think like 2 weeks later, I sent you a video. I tagged a
Yeah,
video,
sorry. Yeah,
and
yeah,
I was mudding this section of my house, and I was like, well, let me try it. I'm going to test the tool. I'm going to test it thoroughly,
yeah,
and all I did is I had a 5 gallon of the top. For those that it's the green bucket from Lowe's and Home Depot. I forget, it's like Top Coat or something, and you have to mix it. So I mix water, and if you add Dawn soap, it really helps. Just little trick of the trade. Um, but I added some water to this mud. I moved about like 5 scoopfuls over, so about a gallon of mud over to a 5 gallon bucket, and because I knew I actually spun it on speed one, and it mixed
yeah,
the mud perfect. And what I say by perfect is there was no chunks when I spread it out. There
yeah,
was no liquid. If you've ever used a mixer for mud or paint, you'll every once in a while you'll be pouring it out and you'll see a little pocket of like oil, like not oil, but like I forget the technical term. My brain's going too fast right now. But when you're pouring paint out, there's a little like you'll see little pockets. It looks oil because it's like gold looking. So if you have white or whatever color, you'll pour it out because your paint wasn't mixed thoroughly. And they're
yeah,
just air pockets. And so with the mud, I didn't get any pockets. In the paint, I didn't get any pockets. I'm like, wow, this thing really does. And I actually stopped and I wrote you. I don't always post my
yeah,
videos right away, but this is one I had to post right away and send it to you. Like, like, hey, dude, this is fucking awesome. Like, it does what it does. So
yeah.
I give this
Yeah, we
a 5 out of 5 on my tool rating. Like, this is
bless you. Thank you.
this
Thank
is
you
a
very much.
this is a tool of the year. This is one of my nominees for tools of the year. I'm
Bless you.
very selective. For those that have been following me for years, if you don't know, if you're new to my channel, understand like I rate my tools. If I give a tool a 2 or below, I actually don't post anything about it because I just don't find value in it. Not to be a
Yeah,
dick, it's just my own mindset. But like this is a tool that we would give away on my giveaways. This is a tool that on my Christmas giveaways every year, I haven't done the last 2 years. We did Splashless 12 Days giveaway. Like this would be one of my top tools of the day because everybody can use it. Plumbers
yes,
make stuff, painters mix things,
yeah,
drywallers, mudders. I mean, hell, I know guys that I don't know why. So if you're this person and you know why, please message me and let me know why. But I've seen videos. I see guys that take tubes of caulk and empty them out, and then
really,
they mix it, and then they put it in it. They transfer the caulk over from like they empty it out and they move it over to another caulk, and then they caulk. They usually make it from like the smaller 12 ounce to a bigger one. I don't know why, but
okay.
I even see guys that mix their own caulk and
No, I've not
silicone.
seen that before. No,
I
I've not
don't
seen
know
that
why.
before.
I have not done resin, like an epoxy 2 part or 1 part. But my buddy, one of my good friends, he was over and I showed him the tool. He tried stealing it from me. I told him to go buy one. But I he's like, dude, that would be perfect for epoxy. So he's like, hey, tell the owner, Mike, here's what I'm doing for you. He's like, hey, tell the owner to make one that I think you're starting to make it that's smaller. He said because
Yeah,
if you mix like table rosin or resin, I don't know how they want to say that. It really is in like a quart gallon in a quart cup, not a
yeah,
gallon. And he's like, I'd like the little one because some of them like to leave it in there, so when they're mixing it, they can just do a little bit of a hand to still get it
yeah,
going. And that right there, that alone, the term I'm going to use for you, Courtney, is piggybacking. You have one tool that fixes paint, but the
yeah,
fact that you can do other things on it and grow means that the engineering, the heart, the passion, and the dedication is there.
So when we tested, I mean, this 5 mil one of the original 5 mil ones, has been beaten to within an inch of its life. So when we first started it, we tile grout, tile cement, bitumen. It's, and when we actually covered one in bitumen, let it go, and we used a blowtorch to just heat it up and peel it off afterwards, perfectly clean
Yeah.
underneath. All the paints, your mud, as you were saying, any kind of fillers, skims, any kind of thing at all. It has mixed. It's mixed it all. Even some tanking for a basement, small amounts of tanking. It's managed to mix it. Yeah, it's not going to do a full bucket of something really really thick because it's not long enough. But we're going down the road. So just to mention as well, the beveling you're talking about, also the edges are beveled. So the ends are beveled and
Mm-hmm.
the bottom is beveled. And the reason is so that if you do hit the side of the tin or you rest it on the bottom, you don't damage anything. It doesn't scratch anything. One of the biggest things is a dear friend of mine, one of my videos on Instagram, a dear friend of mine, she has something called Sjogren's disease, which is muscle wasting, but she loves doing DIY. So the ability for her to just rest the whole thing on the bottom of the container and spin it for as long as she likes. And I do it on some tissue paper, some brown tissue paper. I spin it full speed across, or she does. She spins it full speed across this tissue paper with no damage at all, just to give you an example. But to say what's coming, so we are doing a 4-hole version, so it'll be small enough for those people
So
who want to go into small containers.
for the court
Yeah,
sizes.
yeah, for the quart sizes. So we're
Yep.
coming down to a 4-hole version. We are also doing the longer stem version, which will be a thicker stem and a thicker impeller, so it'll be
I have a
stronger.
question on that for the 5 gallon paint. Is it an engineering? This is where I don't know. I like to tell my listeners that I don't know everything. I know my ego may say that. I do. I don't know everything. But when I look at a 5 gallon, if you extended just the original, this one that I have right now in my hand that's
Yeah.
on the market right now, if you extended it 4 inches, does it actually change the vibration?
Oh, yes, yes, yes,
Okay,
yes. It won't
so
work. It
that's
won't
the
work.
reason. That's
It
the
will
reason why
not
you
work.
have to jump up to seven
Yeah,
mil. Okay,
yes.
I when you said
So
that, I was like,
the
I trying to science it behind and understand the
yeah,
why.
no. So we've gone to the maximum we can, whereby the velocity that it spins at won't actually start the rod spinning. The stem
Oh,
itself
okay.
won't spin. So it'll spin within the drill. But when you go to a certain length, then you start to get a whip that goes around, and then the whole thing just starts coming to pieces. So by strengthening, by going thicker on the stem, and by slightly heavier on the head, because we'll wait and see. We're going for the 7 and 5. It may be that 7 and 3 works, but we need to then make sure that the weld is secure and strong enough when you're going from 7 down into 3.
Mhm.
It needs to, it needs to work, because we're also looking at where the longer version is also going to be for home brewers. So people
Oh,
who
okay.
home brew. So I have a good couple of good friends here who home brew, and one of the biggest problems they have is aerating the wort as they get it ready, and the bits and pieces. So our longer stem one will be for home brewers as well, so that they can sterilize it. So because it's stainless steel,
Yeah.
so it's food grade. So once they've used it, they can sterilize it and it can go back into the wort and stir it up again. But by having the length on it, they can put it down and they can put it in and spin it up for as long as they like. And because, as you say, with the tapered holes, because the liquid is forced through, it creates a certain amount of bubbling, which allows that air to really flip through the wort. And in small batches, it's already been done with a normal one, and I know it works. I've been told it's absolutely brilliant. And they've said, why don't they sell it with the kits? They should, because it's the best thing, and the fact that you can sterilize it as well. So there's lots of different things that it can be used for, and there's lots of different places it can go.
So I
But
think we should tell everyone: save a tree, stop using wood sticks to stir your stick, just buy the
oh yeah, yeah,
cyclone, and you're fine. Um,
yeah.
I love everything about it. The brewery thing makes sense. Um, I have a lot of fun with them because after I started playing around with it, like if you when you guys buy one of these, I'm telling you, put it on your drill and record it out of water. Like don't put it in anything. the slow motion, I'll post the video. The slow motion effect of it is very mesmerizing. Like, have you done it? Have you done it outside of the drill and
I
see,
tell
like,
you,
your drill goes so fast?
yeah, but, I mean, we've had it all, but because it's weighted so well, you can rest it on a table, start it spinning, and it just goes on and on
Yeah,
and on and on. And you're sitting there looking at it going, it's still going, it's still going. It is mesmerizing in that sense. And just to clarify, one, I've never been able to clarify this before on any kind of
let's
show. So
clarify it.
please, Splash, if you can let me clarify this for everybody out there saying, "Oh, it needs a hex end on it." No, it doesn't. I promise you. If we were to put a hex end on, we would have to weld on a piece of 7 mil to squash it to 5 mil, and it would create a weak point. And apart from that, as Splash was, and anyone who's ever used one, you don't need it. It does not slip. I promise you, it
It
doesn't
does. I've
slip.
never had mine
You
slip,
don't need
and
it.
I'll
It
add
won't
on.
slip.
I'll add on to that. Not everything needs a hex, and the reason why that people say that, because they want to use their impact drill. Listen, blue collar men and women, you have two types of drills. If you're that adamant that you need to use a hex, buy a different bit that'll fit into this. I've actually done a video, I just haven't posted it yet. But at the end of the day, Courtney, I love the product. I think it's a great product. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for putting your 10 years into it. Business wise, I think that you have a great product. We'll do our part here in the States to help sell, and my friends up north in Canada. I'm telling you guys, this is one of those tools that when you buy it, you won't need to buy them again. And I
Oh, you
think
won't
as a
know.
painter, you should have one for each one of your crews. Each person that touches paint on a crew should have one. And the great thing about tools, and this is one of my how do I give something 5 stars or not, is it doesn't take up a lot of space at all. It's extremely easy to clean, and
Yep.
you can have fun with it. Like, I've enjoyed making the videos with it, but that's the content creator in me. My son was doing something. What was he? Oh, he was blowing bubbles. My sons are older though, by the way. And he took it out and he was like spinning it through the bubbles, like, like
Yeah.
the ball, and it was like blowing him out. I didn't record it. It's sometimes I like to just enjoy life without being behind a camera. But it was so cool to see. I'm like, oh, that's bad. He's like, Dad, look at this. Because my kids sometimes just go in my shop and they grab things. I don't care. But him and his girlfriend were out there. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, man. But Courtney, where can people find you? And where, more importantly, I mean, find you, but where can people start buying your product? Because it is available for purchase.
Bless you. Well, what I do is there, just so people know, when we created the Cyclone and we came to its original thing, the original marketing was this, the original packaging. I created this packaging, developed it, and created it. So it used to be orange. So if you see photographs of it with orange packaging, it's still the Cyclone, but everything now is green because JD Brands are green, and that's their company colours. So Mac at JD Brands, this is how it should come these days. But if you see an old picture of it in orange, it's the same thing. It's the same product. So Chris at Obvious Solutions, if you go to Obvious Solutions Inc., www.obvioussolutionsInc.com. He's based in Long Island, and you can get them from Obvious Solutions website. Um, He is also an isnt vendor. So if you go along to your Ace store and you want to get them, you can go along and ask them to look for Obvious Solutions on their vendor system, and you will be able to get it ordered through that. Obviously, it is available on Amazon. But Chris has secured a space to talk to Lowe's in the next few weeks. And we're very hopeful, and we look forward to that, to be able to present it to Lowe's, and we hope that they'll take it on board and start the process there. But it's now available in America, and it's certainly a marketplace that my mother lives in Florida, as I mentioned earlier. She's been there for 30 years. Sadly, her husband died last year. He was a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Marines. He was a fighter pilot in Vietnam, and he died last year, which is very sad. But I've been to America many many times, and I know that that it works, and I know that it can be a success over there, and it can be used. And yeah, I'm just very grateful to you, Splash, and to everyone who's got one, and to all those people who are using it. And I will actually, I can't confirm anything at the moment, but what I will do, Splash, is I'll have a word with Chris and see if we can't come up with a little giveaway. And then if we can arrange that with Chris to send you a few to give away, and then maybe you can organise that through your site yourself. Is that something we can arrange?
Absolutely, yeah. I'll do a chat with Chris on it. It's just easier for him to send them out, but we'd love to do a giveaway. I love the product. And those that don't want to wait, guys, gals, this price point is less than $20.
Yeah.
It is honestly less than the McDonald's meal. Like, I'm not fucking shitting you guys. Don't go to McDonald's one time this month. Go pick up a Cyclone. I'll put the link in the bio. You know, I love the story, Courtney. I love that you have. I've used this word a lot, discipline. I think it's the word of season 10 right now. Um, you know, it it is not easy creating a tool
No.
because there's endless nights. It's like being a business owner. I mean, it is the same thing, but you have to create the idea. Once the idea is there, then you have to create a belief. And once you have the belief created, you then have to sell yourself. You aren't selling the product. I spoke with another tool inventor. He just sent me a tool a few days ago, and he sent me the packaging. And you know, I don't mean that. I say this out of love, and I told them the same thing. Nobody cares about your face. Stop putting your face on the package. If you're a tool inventor, nobody cares.
It's the last thing that's going to happen here.
Let your product sell yourself.
Yeah.
And when I said that to him, he's like, "Wow." I said, "Listen, the ShamWow guy, those guys, those are great things, you know, but that's a salesman. That's Splash, you know. Not that I'm the cutest face, but I'm not afraid to have a personality. You know, I have that personality. I'm not afraid. I'm not shy of anything. There's very
Yeah.
little, if anything, in this world that scares me. Um, maybe just mice. That's about it. But they actually don't. They actually don't anymore. But ultimately, my bigger point is this: is that if you're going to sell a product like Courtney's done, as you're building, be quiet. Ask the hard question. I mean, honestly, and I don't. We, you know, we'll kind of wrap it up on this, but like, Courtney, that's a hard question to ask your friend. Do you have faith in this? And it's like asking your spouse. I'm going to relate this pretty seriously.
Yeah.
Like,
No, it's true. It's very true.
it's like acting your spouse. Like, hey, do you still find me attractive? If your spouse said no, it's like a fucking gut punch. Like, oh shit. So when
Yeah.
your friend says, "Hey, mate, I don't really have the belief in it," you have to understand. Like, okay, that's okay, because you understand one of the biggest rules of being a business owner: nobody cares.
No. And the decision-making process is it's when these decisions come,
Mm-hmm.
and I would say this, you know, so strongly to anybody who wants to go down this road of any type of business. When you make the decision, stick with it.
Yep.
Because if you truly put your heart and soul into it, and you truly keep going and keep pushing and keep working and keep going, then you will create the luck, you'll create the contacts, you'll create the system. If what you're doing is good, if what you have is quality, if what you have does a job and fills a space and does it well, your perseverance will bring people to you. People will find you because you're persevering, because you're making sure you're trying to get it out there. And I can't, my son talks about it a lot. He's 20 years old, and he's in a very different generation model. And I'm very blessed. He's got a great work ethic, and he wants to be in business for himself. And I understand that, and we talk about it a lot. But his friends and people he knows in of his own age group, he just doesn't understand why there's such an expectation now that things are going to be done for them, given to them, or they just don't know what they want to do. There seems to be no purpose there. So I just, if you have the belief, if you truly think you're onto something, doesn't matter if someone turns around, someone as close as your best mate or your wife or whatever turns around and says, you know what, I don't think we should do this anymore. I think I think you should go on to something else or go and get a proper job. There's a good one.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. If you truly, truly have your heart in it and you think it will succeed and you believe in the product and people who you respect believe in the product. I'm sitting here talking to you, Splash, with all respect. You're a professional in the business. You know exactly what you're doing. If you said it was rubbish, I'd have to accept that it was rubbish. If you say it's great, I accept that it's great. But I've been through this process of 10 years. I've met, as I said, Tool Talk, Wayne DeWitt. I've met some wonderful people who genuinely know their stuff. And if somebody gives you that nod and says, you're onto something, don't give up. Persevere. Keep pushing. Keep, just keep going because you never know where it's going to take you. And there are kind people out there who will give you the benefit of their knowledge and their experience,
The
and you
universe
must
has
never
a
ever
the
turn that
universe has
away.
a way of putting things in front of you, people, things, whatever word you want to interchange there,
Mm,
because you're putting the work in. I hate the word failure. I really
mm,
do. Um, a little behind the scenes of the Splash House. I let my kids kind of do whatever they want, but I'm very adamant. There's a few things that are not allowed in my house, and one of the things is saying I can't.
yeah.
I do
It,
not let that word in my house. I started saying it. My wife started understanding and acknowledging it, and you know, um, to what you're saying is 1,000% true. Now, does it mean that everything is going to be successful and fulfill the way
no,
you vision it? No, but
cool, no.
failing is, in my mind's eye, you fail because you don't complete the process. It's like, uh, I don't want to talk about me because this isn't about me, but it makes sense to share this story. When I knew I was going to stop my paint business, I had set written down plans. I set things out and said, okay, it, it's like building anything. We're blue collar, so let's build a bridge to cross this lake that we want to cross because we know that when we get to it, there's something there that's important that's going to change our life. When I set out, when I had the first thought of ending my business, I actually didn't tell my wife. I didn't tell anybody. I got to a point where one, the money didn't matter. I started
Hmm.
realizing that I needed to be a better human being, and I'll leave it at that. Um, my mental health was important. My physical health was important, and I didn't realize what it was. I just knew something was off. So I put things in order. I said, if this happens, I'm going to continue. But if this happens, it doesn't. And to go to you and Cyclone, I know you've had to have done those things. If someone says this isn't working and I get 12 people who I respect, that's a key word, I'm not going to do it. But
Yeah.
you got the 12 yeses. So that is not failure. When you and I say this because I get a lot of tool inventors like they just don't see themselves winning. It's like, no, you have to complete the process. You have to finish the phone call. If you're we're all family members, if you're disciplining your household, you have to complete the process. You don't start a job and not complete it, and if you do, it's because you have thresholds. That's a big word in business ownership. Like, you have thresholds. Like, if this happens, there's a reaction. But if you just set out, if I if I just woke up one day and said I'm going to shut my business down and had no reason, that's failure because I wanted that accomplishment of being a business owner, whether it's egotistical or not. You wanted the accomplishment. When you asked your friend, hey, do you believe in this? You knew before you asked the question what the answer is. And I
Yes.
believe wholeheartedly if we listen to our internal selves, I'm going to hit
Splash
you here.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, I wouldn't have asked him.
Yeah. But it's important
I knew
though.
what the
And
answer
and
was.
and, and
Yeah.
that's stop. This is so hard to say to another human being because we're not in their seat. We're not in that person's
Yeah.
mind. Stop fearing the question that you know. Ask it, and if it's if the answer you got was true, then figure out the next decision.
Yeah.
Don't
That's it.
make the immediate response because you rightfully then could have said, "You know what, Splash, you're right. This isn't going to work." And now you're 10 years later doing something different. It doesn't mean that wouldn't have been successful in whatever you just chose to do. It just means that you have to finish the process. You just need to, and I guess that's what I'm getting to, because your thunder was louder than mine. But like, if you start something, finish it,
Yes.
but have
Yes.
thresholds, and don't be afraid to ask the question. I mean, I've said this a million times on social media. I've said it a million times to my kids. I'll say it 20 billion times before I die. If I ask you a question and it's a no, it means there's a yes somewhere else.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because I actually like to hear no, because no makes me think in a different direction. Because I'm not perfect. I don't know all the
Yeah.
answers.
Yeah. And I think it's important to also put some perspective on that, in the sense that I've been told no loads of times, loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of times. I've been told no, 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 no. Wouldn't even look at it. Won't even do this. And then you just you keep pursuing, keep pursuing, keep pursuing. And I think failure is failure. The word failure can mean different things. If you take something as far as the project as possible, if you take it to the nth degree and you've done absolutely everything you possibly can, and the market doesn't take it, or it doesn't get taken on by the market, or taken on by or taken on by the public, whatever, that doesn't mean you failed. If they don't take it, that's the second part of the process. Achieving what you set out to achieve, you've still achieved it. You've still created something. You've still made something. You've still gone through that process. You've persevered. You've done what you set out to do. If it doesn't make that next step, that's not you. You can't force that next step. And that's something I learned very quickly. I cannot make you go and buy it. It
No,
doesn't work like that. I have to prove to you that it is of value, that it's worthwhile, that it'll last, that it's a good product. I have to prove all these things after I've already proved all of those things to the point to get it to where it needed to be. Then I've got to prove it all over again. And then once I've proved it to you, I've got to prove it all over again to the next people. And it's building on that traction and building on that traction. And I think, it's failure is a difficult thing to accept when it does happen. It's a very hard thing to accept, but failure can also be positive. Failure, when something doesn't work, find a way to make it work, find a way to make it work a different way. Keep looking, keep progressing, keep growing. That's how we all work. That's why we're here doing what we do. It's why some people can prep well and some people can't. Well, some people can paint well and some people can't. Because those people who do it well and do it professionally, have continued to learn and grow and understand what the art is all about, and how to do these things. So I just, yeah, I'm nobody. I'm just a bloke from England who was very fortunate. Two guys in a room. We came up with an idea. We made the decision to go for it. One believed in it, one didn't. I'm the stupid one that believed in it, and here we are, all this time later. My belief is starting to pay off.
yeah,
I'm not going to be a millionaire overnight, the next year, or anything else. That's not how it works, because I understand that make the product and do it well, and the money will come. No one's going to come and say, "Oh, Courtney, here's 5 million quid. Let's have it. Let's give me the cycle." That's not going to happen. But I know that if I've made a product that lasts, we've made a product that will succeed, that can do the job, that I can be proud of, that you guys enjoy using. And by doing so, the money will come over time. And when it comes, thank you very much. I should be very blessed. And I know that in my own life, as a Christian, I am a Christian, and things that we have a lot of things planned, a lot of things planned for when the money comes, and I really look forward to that. Because theoretically, I shouldn't actually be here based on my health in the past. So I'm incredibly blessed to be here. My wife and I, we're just so lucky. And yeah, we got lots of plans, but do it right. If it's worth doing, do it right, do it properly, and the money will come. Give it time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate it, Courtney. Your words hang in a realm of appreciation and of hope. So those that are thinking they have an idea or have an idea and they've started it, um, persevere through, ask the hard questions, and you will find you'll get to where you need to. And
Yeah,
use the opportunities when things come to you. China, that's the great example. When
yeah,
use the opportunity
absolutely.
when things are in front of you to say, hey, I'll take it up. you know
Yeah,
but I appreciate it, Courtney. I know it's late where you're at. I know you got to finish your drink.
bless you.
We'll be in touch. Stay tuned. Stay tuned for the
Cheers.
videos. As cheers when
Splash.
you. I don't even have a drink. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Cheers. When you have
Cheers, Splash. It's
when
been
you
a
have your.
pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. When you have your next tool, or you would just want to come on again, let me know.
Bless you.
Is this available in Australia too, and Brazil, or
Uh,
not yet?
Brazil, South America, yes, you can get it on Amazon in South America. I think Australia, we would like to try and arrange for somebody to take it in Australia. I know we were talking to a couple of potential distributors. Australia is, because of its distance to New Zealand, it's much better to have a distributor over there who takes a
Oh
load
yeah.
over and then they can distribute it. But that's something that Mac would arrange. But if anyone in Australia wants to chat about those things, I can certainly put them in touch with Mac
Hey,
and we can get that
twelve
sorted.
percent of my listeners are Australian, so y'all
Fantastic,
get in the connection. I know twelve
fantastic.
percent doesn't seem big, but
No, no, no. That's yeah, it's good.
when
And
you
my uncle lives on the Sunshine Coast down there, so
yeah.
yeah, he's a carpenter.
And hey, you know what? If you have a lot of spider webs, you can put this on your drill and just put it in front of you to get all, like I got all sorts of ideas.
Yeah,
It's not just
absolutely.
a
Yeah,
paint tool. It's not just a paint tool.
no,
Well, hey,
fantastic.
Courtney, I appreciate it. We're going to end with our sponsor and some music from Tyler. Thank you again.
Bless you. Thank you.
No handouts, just work. That is the motto of blue collars across the world. You and me alike, we understand what it is to get off a job site, look all dirty, getting ready to go out to dinner, trying to find some clothes that still represent that we are blue collar to the bone. Well, visit my friends at Trep Wear. That's TREP wear.com. What is Trep, you ask? It stands for the real everyday people. That's you. That's you every day. You are real. You are an everyday human being that just loves and has passion about what you do. Well, wear it pridefully on your shirts, on your shorts, on your jackets, and on your baseball hats. Visit my friends at trepwear.com and use my code SPLASH25, get 25% off, and be part of the real everyday people of the blue collar world. And as I end my episodes, every episode, blue collar men and women of the world, you are the difference makers. I know it's a little cliche from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but you are the business. You are the you decide and change the world. So when you're out in the world, be nice to everybody. I know it's not easy, but understand. You see someone having a bad day, compliment them. Buy someone a drink. You see little kids, tap your hard hat, drill your drill, whatever it is you need to do. Acknowledge another human being. By simply acknowledging another human being, we as blue collar men and women can change the world, and hopefully we can end some of this unnecessary violence and let people know that we do see them and how badass we fucking are as blue collar men and women. Thank you, Courtney. I appreciate it. Everyone, leave me a review. Tell your friends. We're out.
Thank you.